Can good design shape a better world? At Monocle's Quality of Life conference in Barcelona this September, we'll be putting that question to the people who already are. Join leading designers, architects, and creative leaders as we explore how design intersects with culture, business, and everyday life. Plus, great food, excellent company, and plenty of Catalan charm. Find out more and book your seat at monocle.com/conference.
This is Monocle on Design, a show where we discuss everything from architecture and craft to furniture and graphic design. I'm Nick Manise. On today's program, we meet the founder of Ikat Indonesia, a company bringing historical textile techniques to a contemporary audience. Plus, some Nordic design news. We preview Helsinki Design Week and more. We also hear from the team at Hamri, a Portuguese collectible design brand. All that coming up on Monocle on Design. Hello and welcome to today's program. First, we turn our attention to textiles and to Southeast Asia, where one clothing brand is bringing a traditional technique to modern audiences. Ikat Indonesia was established in 2011, taking its name from the ancient dyeing and weaving method used to produce patterns on textiles. The brand has been recognised for its contributions to continuing cultural heritage, and it has a portfolio of work that includes the creation of uniforms for Indonesia's athletes for the 2024 Paralympic Games. Monocle producer Ryuma Takahashi caught up with the brand's creative director, Didiat Maulana, who began by explaining what Ikat is.
Ikat means to tie, to bind. By doing the ikat, you are actually feeling the color and then the patterns that you want to create in textiles. So ikat, it's a binding. And then after, we weave them to becoming a cloth. In each of the region in Indonesia, we have a different technique. The double ikat, you can only find it in Indonesia, Japan, and India. For the double ikat technique, it's not only a beautiful pattern, but you have these beautiful stories behind. Most of the pattern is actually describing what is happening or what do they have around that region. For instance, in Sumatra, they have this certain type of flower which they try to create that in a textile. So it becoming a pattern, a beautiful flower pattern. And it's different. The flower pattern in Sumatra is different with the north of Indonesia. So each of the region, they have a different way to express it. What makes ikat special is because the pattern can go international. I mean, like, visual-wise, people already know the visual. So it's not something that is new for them. It has a big opportunity for ikat to be worn across the world.
I understand like Ikat Indonesia is kind of your challenge to introduce the traditional Ikat Indonesia in the modern world. What do you find most challenging about introducing traditional Ikat culture to younger generations?
The challenge is how we can always read the trend and how to connect between the trend and then the original pattern. From the roots, from the original pattern, you have to modify it so it can be applicable to be used as a pattern for daily wear. Some patterns are very sacred, so you have to really know the usage for each of the pattern. We inspired by the local original pattern and then we modify it so it can be used for daily wear. Sometimes people, they perceive traditional clothes or inspired by traditional means it's so difficult to wear, it's not for everyone, but we make it modern by using the zipper. or the way of the opening, make it easier for people to use it.
Could you tell us more about your designing process? What is the start point for the designing?
The design process is very abstract. From all the books that I read, people that I meet, places that I went to, and it's not only Indonesia, it's the world, because I also did a lot of international traveling, so everything is inspiring me.
You studied architecture and you also worked in media or several industry. How your experience inspired your designing clothes now?
My favorite architect are Tadao Ando, and then Frank Lloyd Wright. I love Tan Chang Ai from Indonesia. Each of them is translating how minimalism can actually create a beautiful design. And what I learned from the architecture was to be able to produce beautiful clothes, you have to know the construction first. Let's say I was spending like 6 months, or I think around 6 months, just learning about the foundation of the building. So when I create my clothes, I have to really learning about the construction, and that's what makes our collections known, because it's simple. People always say that the simplicity, it's becoming the signature. In my field now, I have to know the construction. I have to know how to create a beautiful clothes. In architecture, you're not only designing from the front, but from the side and then from the back, everything. So it's also the same when we create our clothes. People have to know that and have to appreciate that from the back, from the side, from everywhere.
You also design for uniforms. So what is the difference in terms of designing?
With the corporate, more to uniform, we are aligning with their vision, their DNA of their brand, and how we can resonate what they already have through fashion. What we want is whenever their team wearing the clothes, it's not only wearing the clothes, but they really know the story behind that. And then it's not only the clothes, but it's something that is full of vision, full of integrity when you're wearing it.
Finally, I want to hear your design philosophy. What does design mean to you?
For me, design is giving a solution. It's not giving burden. When I meet my client, then my design should give them a solution, should give them a smile. So it's not only create a beautiful product, but something that they can appreciate, that they can love, that they can wear for all the seasons.
That was Didiet Maulana in conversation with Monocle's Ryuma Takahashi.
Grab a beach towel and find a lounger by the pool, because Monocle's sunny July-August Quality of Life themed issue is on newsstands now. Inside, you will find our new look Quality of Life survey, which assesses livability through the lens of 10 key categories, from healthcare to nightlife, awarding a winning city for each one. And there's also our manifesto that proposes 10 creative solutions to help ease the housing crisis. Discover all of this and more in the latest issue of Monocle magazine. Pick up a copy at your local newsstand or subscribe today at monocle.com/subscribe.
Welcome back to Monocle on Design. It's time now on the program for a Nordic Design News Roundup, looking ahead at some of the events and upcoming launches that are catching our attention. I'm joined in the studio by, I would say, Monocle's happiest correspondent, and that's appropriate given he is from the happiest country in the world, Helsinki-based Petri Burtsoff. Welcome.
Thanks so much for bringing some of the Arctic chill into the very hot London.
Now, we're going to jump right into forecasting Helsinki Design Week, which comes at the end of summer. This year, the event is dedicating its theme to designing happiness. I mean, for starters, do the Finns know something about the link between design and happiness? Tell me.
I think there is, and that's actually a really good question also to ask. Is happiness something that can be designed? And that's one of the main themes of the Helsinki Design Week this year. What role does design play? And I suppose you can approach that from so many angles. Everything around us is design, not only the physical products, the services that we use, the schools we go to, the curriculum, everything is designed. So there is definitely a link. But a lot of the events at the Helsinki Design Week, they will be looking at this aspect. And I have to say also, as a Finn, Finland, I believe this is the 8th year in a row that Finland is the happiest country in the world. And Finland has not been very good at making use of that as a soft power tool. And now they're finally waking up to this. Finns are so humble. Usually when you hear that you're the happiest country in the world, Finns are like, no, well, not really. And I think only now Finns are starting to accept the fact that maybe we are the happiest country in the world. And maybe there is something that we can teach other people about this. And design is one of those aspects.
So how do you think, if you're the person curating Helsinki Design Week, how do you see that maybe being represented? Is there anything you're anticipating being on show at this year's event?
Well, I mean, I have to set this up by saying that Helsinki Design Week as an event is much more than just sort of a furniture or even much more than just a physical design event. I mean, it is partly about showcasing new stuff, but it's also about thinking about design and discussing what the role of design is and what design can achieve. So there's going to be lots of events around this theme of happiness. They do this wonderful thing every year called the Pecha Kucha night, where they invite a bunch of designers and other people to give these presentations about the stuff that they've recently done. And this year they're doing it in a church for the first time. So maybe there's a spiritual link here as well. And I also went to see, because Helsinki Design Week has a different main venue each year. And this year they're moving into a beautiful sort of an Art Nouveau building in the center of Helsinki, next to this church actually. I went to take a look at it. It's going to be amazing on some of the top floors of this building with nice views over Helsinki. There's going to be a wine pop-up there and discussions again around this theme of happiness.
Well, I'm going to need you to get me tickets for that. You talk about this amazing venue. Do the Finns talk about the potential for architecture to maybe lift our spirits? I mean, I know at Helsinki Design Week, the winning design for the new Architecture and Design Museum is going to be unveiled. Is this something that also factors into these happiness discussions, the quality of the built environment, the quality of the architecture?
Yes, I think you touch upon something very important here. And I think if you look at the sort of the very core of Finnish, I guess you could also say Nordic, but Finnish design in particular, it is tactile natural materials, functionalism, very simple, very democratic. You find great design, you find Artek, Iittala, these brands, Marimekko, in every single Finnish home. It's not something that is only for the elite. Good design is sort of a privilege of everybody who lives in Finland. And then as the happiest country in the world, I think there is a link here. The fact that we are a very happy country and the fact that we have good design.
And it's all about quality as well. I want to move on to Habitare, which is also taking place at the end of summer. This is the more trade fair focused event that takes place at the same time as Helsinki Design Week. Over 550 brands participating in the event. There's talks, workshops, awards. But the theme this year is about our human need to experience, to touch and to feel things. You've brought this story to me. What jumped out to you about that? Why was, the idea of touch so important?
I find this really interesting, and it's quite unique also. I mean, you go to these design events and quite often they're about how things look, but not necessarily about how things feel. And Päivi Helander, who has designed this year's exhibition, she's really great. So I'm really looking forward to how Habitare is and sort of how they approach this touch and feel theme. Is there going to be discussions about materiality? Are there going to be like events where you touch different things and compare? You talk about design, touch is always there, tactility is always there, but it's not always the focus of an entire furniture fair. I think the interesting thing is we can talk a lot about sort of what the relationship is to Stockholm Furniture Fair and the 3 days of design. But I think Habitare is very much a B2C event. Tens of thousands of Finns go there to actually buy furniture. So it's a very different vibe compared with Salone, for example. And you get some really good deals there. It's a very democratic event also. Like everybody I know in Helsinki goes to Habitare and a lot of them come back with a sofa in tow.
This is where people being able to actually be there, touch things, feel things. This is a chance, as you said, for want of a better expression, but for everyday people to kind of go and see good design on show. And tactility, touching things that feel good, natural materials can release chemicals in our brain that helps to regulate our moods, reduce stress, all these sorts of things. And I think people being able to experience that sort of thing firsthand is really important. I was lucky enough to attend Habitare last year, and you and I worked on a few reports from there. One of them did feature the Finnish heritage brand Hakkala. Tell me about their plans for the coming months.
Hakkala is for their 2025 collection, releasing a bunch of new products. Think just very, very colorful bed covers, pillows, sofas, bags, and then something that Hakkala has never done before. They're going to release, this is in September, so at the Helsinki Design Week and Habitare, they're releasing a collection of carpets and rugs. Very much, again, in the Hakkala fashion, so bright colors, natural materials, of course, made in Finland from local materials. And this is something new to them, and I think it's interesting it's an old heritage brand, very much loved by the Finns, and still managing to innovate and branch out into new, well, not new sectors, but still new product categories. I think this is a brave move from them, and I'm sure this is going to be quite a hit.
I mean, and is there tactility in this as well? I feel like rugs are often overlooked as, I guess, a sector of the industry or a product within the industry. I know you've reported on rug companies for us far and wide many times before. How important is having something quality under your feet, not just, a hardwood floor?
I think for Finns in particular, because we don't, unlike people here in the UK, for example, we take our shoes off when we're inside.
We take our shoes off here. I don't take my shoes off in Australia, I will say.
Oh, really?
That. Yeah. Well, it's wet here in London. You need to take your shoes off when you get inside. Australia, everything's dry. You're fine.
Yeah. Just the tactility of feeling something. Summer, you're at your summer cabin. You never wear any shoes. You go like 3 months without wearing shoes. Just feeling the material under your feet, it's a big thing. And I looking at this new Hakkala carpets here, they look very, very nice. They're not fluffy and soft like maybe a company that I did a report on, Kasthall, the Swedish company. Beautiful rugs, of course, we gave them the Monocle Design Award. Very sort of fluffy and soft. These are very different. These are almost the kinds of like traditional Finnish rugs that you would find in a summer home. They feel a little bit rougher under your feet, but it's a very nice tactility. And then again, it's like as an all year round rug, very practical, because in the winter, of course, you will have snow on your shoes when you come in, and you can't have a big fluffy rug then.
Absolutely, shoes up. I want to jump from one heritage Finnish brand to a few others. Marimekko and Artek recently released a collaboration at 3 Days of Design in Copenhagen, the kind of de facto Danish Design Week. Tell us a little bit about, firstly, your take on it, and I guess what you hope to see to bring this full circle from the likes of Marimekko and Artek at Helsinki Design Week later this summer.
Yes, it's the 90th anniversary year for Artek. They're celebrating their anniversary by collaborating with different designers from different sectors. They started the year with collaboration with the Moomin characters, which was quite a beautiful rendition of their classic Artek 60 stool with some original Moomin drawings on them, beautiful birch stools. And now they're continuing with collaboration with Marimekko, which they unveiled at the 3 Days of Design, but which will be officially launched in September at the Helsinki Design Week, featuring again the Artek 60 stool with some very classic Marimekko motifs on it, designed by perhaps the most iconic of all Marimekko designers, Maija Isola. So her prints and patterns will feature on, I believe it's the Artek stool, but also some tables as well.
And it's kind of etched in, I've seen, which is quite a phenomenal, I guess, approach to this.
Yeah, it is. I have to say they look stunning, and I could see one in my home. Please send it my way.
Oh, and this is coming back to that tactility we're talking about. You're talking about having one in your home. Maybe this is the point to end it. We were starting with, I guess, happiness. Can furniture bring you happiness? I mean, Petri, is there a piece of Artek furniture? I'll give you a few options here. We've got the Alto tea trolley, that sort of famous big-wheeled tea trolley. I also see it as a bar cart. So you've got that. You've got the Alto Stool 60, a classic. And then what about the Alto Screen 100? 3 iconic Artek pieces by Alto. Which one are you taking home? Which one's going to make you the happiest?
Well, speaking of happiness, I think the bar trolley definitely, not maybe the trolley, but what is placed on the trolley will make me as a Finn very happy. If you see what I mean.
I couldn't agree more. Maybe let's go grab a drink. Petri, that's perfect. Thank you so much. Or as you know, we were in Helsinki last year and I learnt the word kiitos. Thank you very much. We'll be right back after this.
Isn't it good when things just click? Monocle.com's new look website is live now and brimming with new features, fresh daily opinion, and more. Head to our revamped website to access our online shop, subscribe, or log into our eagerly awaited new selection of city guides. To stay ahead, spot opportunities on the horizon, and gain a global perspective, head to Monocle.com today.
Finally, on today's program, we head to Lisbon to visit Portuguese collectible furniture brand and interior design studio, Hamri. This show's producer, Maylee Evans, visited DAM, the brand's new event space in the city's Marvilla neighbourhood. At DAM, she met the brand's namesake founder to discuss the company's ethos when producing contemporary handmade furniture and objects, and why the Hamri team is keen for the new space to be more than a stuffy showroom.
I think the earliest memory I have was I used to pull furniture around my bedroom as a kid and play interior designer, and I think that was where my sort of love of design and spaces started to flourish. My name is Hamri. I am a furniture designer with a collectible design brand based in Lisbon. The first job I had was in Berlin, working for a guy called Gisbert Pappler, and I joined with no experience, and he kind of threw me in at the deep end. So my first day was already managing a project where I also had to do all the furniture. So I started to sketch and play with whatever materials I could find, and then that's when the magic started to happen.
Why did you want to start up Hamri, and what's your ethos in deciding what projects to take on?
This industry, creates a lot of pollution and has a pretty negative impact on the environment. And there aren't very many brands, and especially like the big players, that really take that responsibility and do anything to push back and make the effort or change the industry. And for that reason, my point is to show that you can have a high-end product that finds a balance, but leaning more on the sustainable side without having to compromise.
And give me some examples, because I suppose the word sustainable gets thrown around a lot, but what does that actually mean in practice when it comes to making, for example, this rug here or the chair over there? Like, what are the actual decisions when making that have an impact?
There's so many things you can do. If you look at it pragmatically, you think, okay, if I want to make the A rug, then I have to have these machines that do it, and I have to have this many people doing it, and there's certain things that you normally would have to have. So I look at what those are, and then I see what I can either remove or experiment with removing and see if it works or not. So the rug that we're standing on right now, it looks pretty simple. It's like a beautiful woven 100% jute, so there's no artificial material in there. But the interesting thing is that it's entirely hand woven with like zero electricity in the process. So there are no electric machines. They work during daylight hours to not use electrical lighting. So it's very simple things like that actually make a pretty big difference, and looks exactly the same as it would or maybe nicer as it were if it were with a machine.
And it's this idea of, I guess, not compromising on luxury as well. You were showcasing some tables over there and the lost wax technique. I mean, these are very different materials, techniques. It feels like quite a vast range of material and medium that you're working with. What attracts you to a project and deciding, I want to explore this for the next couple of months and see where this could lead?
Yeah, that's like one thing I struggle with a little bit, is that I'm very aware that I'm using a lot of different materials and techniques, and I've definitely add a lot more work to my plate by having to manage so many different workshops and my team having to manage different suppliers. But in the end, there seems to be something coherent that ties everything together. I don't really know what it is. Maybe it's just my style. But I'm fascinated by artisans, and I'm fascinated by industrial processes, seeing what I can use or take from that and match with someone else that's making something with their hands. And I love this, like being like a chef and just playing with different ingredients and seeing what comes out.
I'm wondering, just looking around us, are there any examples of a piece or a project that was inspired by encountering a technique or an industrial process where you thought, right, let's see how we can push this?
Yeah, so the chair that's in front of us, the Pepe chair, it's inspired by a handbag. And I noticed on the handbag that it has this like thick piping, and the handbag is made by hand. And I saw how it had no seam, and it was so beautiful and so simple, but it was like a very understated demonstration of how hand process can just create something that industrial process can't. And then the next level I took it to was using vegan suede for the piping and on the seat. And then the backrest is this crazy leather that's repurposed from scraps taken from the fashion industry. And they slice it, they hand weave it, and then I reupholster it. Yeah, it started off with this more industrial approach, and then I just took it to another level. So I started 3 years ago. I've had this space for just over a year, and it's been a year of putting in a lot of time and a lot of thought into how I want to use it to showcase what I'm doing, but not feeling like a sort of stuffy showroom, but somewhere I nap on the sofa. And I go and my colleague is on the other sofa napping. we do other things as well other than nap, but it's a great place for that. But I wanted to make it livable, so I put a dining table in and a kitchen so I can actually have dinners here for 30 people. I invite my friends for a smaller dinner. I put a bar in so I can showcase bar stools and bar lights, but actually be able to use it as a bar. I try to take my brand in a way that it's really livable, but also importantly for me and my colleagues, we can use the space. I want to use the pieces, not just show, but actually enjoy.
No, I like that whole idea of actually using the space rather than feeling very precious and oh, you can't touch that, or you've got to be really careful. Well, tell me a bit about your approach to finding those partners and people you collaborate with.
I've tried a lot of workshops, and every time I lived in Berlin and London and Paris and Milan and then now Lisbon, and every time I was finding local manufacturers and workshops in those countries and production in those countries that sort of fitted with the materials I use and also my aesthetic and what I need. Since I've been here, it's been a lot of trial and error, and sometimes fantastic, but sometimes not so great. And it's finding that balance of the small workshop with a person you can actually call an artisan and a bigger production facility that can meet demands and still execute at the same level of skill. I explore everything, and I really try everyone and everything to find the match. It's like a relationship. It's not just a business deal. I want the people to put everything into it as much as I love the piece, and I want the person buying and collecting it to feel. So yeah, it's finding a balance and a respect for the partners that I'm working with.
And I'm just intrigued, you were mentioning, you've spent time in Berlin, in London, and you're based here now in Lisbon. Have you found that your design sensibility has shifted with those locations, or has it influenced the way you think about making, or has that been pretty constant throughout?
My brand is pretty new, so it's the formative years. There's naturally going to be a lot of development and evolution in my style and my aesthetic. But each country that I've lived in, or each city, is a pretty significant cultural city, and especially Milan, London and Paris for design, it's just the mecca. And so definitely have been in those places actively feeding my historical knowledge of design and understanding of what makes classic design classic. I really do actively educate myself in the past for design. Yeah, if there's any influence those cities have had directly in regards to style, it's probably for that reason. I think the pieces I make, they don't necessarily fit one city or another or one place or another. I think there's something about them that seems to work in most contexts. The city has a vibrancy, and it has a beautiful light, and it has a lightness to the way people are here and the way life is here. And I think that's also kind of softened the look of my pieces, but it's definitely softened my approach to the whole industry. In the end, it's furniture, and I don't want to take it too seriously. I'm not a heart surgeon, so I do take everything with a pinch of salt, and I do try and teach some clients maybe that you're waiting for a beautiful object. The emphasis is on the wait. Beauty isn't born out of rushing.
Looking ahead to the future, what's on your radar?
My mind is relatively organized, but it loves to just explore things that I just don't really need to explore. And so now I'm working on a few different other areas of design, like jewelry design. So I'm making some pieces that are kind of corresponding to existing furniture pieces, like this, like a little matchstick. I made this because I made a matchstick stool. It's like a very simple connection, but I like this idea that you can still have this, like carry something that is tied to the furniture or the design that you're living with, but be able to take it outside. So jewelry is one area, and yeah, there's a few other things in the pipeline.
The artist and designer Hamri speaking to Monocle's Maylee Evans. And that's all for today's show. For more design stories, listen to our 5-minute midweek bonus show, Monocle on Design Extra, which airs on Thursdays. And if you enjoy print, then do pick up a copy of Monocle magazine as well. It's on all good newsstands now. Today's episode was produced and edited by Maylee Evans. I'm Nick Manise. Thanks for listening.